Yeah, it's right around 2:25 p.m. on Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. And as I always do in the videos that I make, I'm just sitting here minding my own business, trying to get some work done. I've already done a bunch of emailing and phone calling today while drinking probably too much coffee, but this stuff is absolutely amazing. And just observing and listening to what's been going on around me over the last few hours. And what's been going on around me over the last few hours is pretty disturbing and has been really disruptive. There has been a group of probably half a dozen, from what I could tell, there was like probably 6 or 7 different voices continuously screaming and shouting and screaming and shouting and screaming and shouting nonstop on the sidewalk directly outside of these windows below on Union Ave for the last 2.5, 3 hours now. The Greenville group, as I keep mentioning, rents to some behaviorally disturbed, mentally dysfunctional career criminals, sex offenders, and psychopaths, most of whom seem to be legally confined to this building, meaning they don't do anything outside of the building, as evidenced by the number of people who I keep getting physically assaulted by or harassed by, who never leave their units, not even in the middle of the day, on a weekday. I just wrapped up a 2.5 month long work gig. It was seasonal. And my employer promised me a permanent position once I had applied for the proper positions through the proper channels. So that's what I've been doing for the last week and a half now. And right now I actually do need some time off from work because there is a legal situation with the landlord that is requiring my full and undivided attention for the past week and over the next 10 days. So the break from work is actually necessary, but it's not permanent. But the point is in this video is that the screaming lowlife scumbags that the Greenville group rents to, including career criminals and sex offenders such as Charles Thomas, Jasmine Irizarry, Wenner Rodriguez, Eduardo Hurtado, the creep directly next door in Unit 88, I suspect his name is Kevin. He's a piece of shit that refuses to stop making all kinds of unsolicited and unreturned comments on my YouTube videos because he has some stalking issues and problems with women, obviously. All of them tend to get really disruptive and aggressive and stand outside on the sidewalks, screaming and shouting for sometimes hours at a time. So it's not that warm outside. It's maybe in the 40s today. And again, I recognize some of the voices screaming and shouting below my windows because I've been hearing them for years. And one of them is Charles Thomas. This guy is a mentally disturbed, behaviorally dysregulated nut job, as evidenced by his extensive criminal history and the fact that he's been in court with charges that the Commonwealth has brought against him for threatening me. He was in court for a year with charges brought against him for his crimes against me. I never did anything to Mr. Thomas. I've been avoiding scumbags like Mr. Thomas, for years. And when I hear or see Mr. Thomas, I go in the other direction. Mr. Thomas always seems to manage some way of getting close to me by approaching me. I have a video of that from the other day when I was exiting the office. Mr. Thomas was standing across the street, but then decided to come across the street and enter the office right where I was standing. He didn't need to do that. That wasn't necessary. He could have just stayed across the street and left me alone, but he had to come to the office while I was exiting the office door. So that's a behavioral problem on the part of Mr. Thomas. He's a stalker. He also has made multiple threats against me and was charged for crimes against me in 2021. My point is, these low-life scumbags have nothing else to do other than to harass people who are not as revolting and dysfunctional as they are. And what they like to do is stand outside of my windows when they have some kind of knowledge that I'm up here. People keep telling me that there are surveillance devices in here that everybody can see what I do in here, and they accurately refer to things that I do in here that they should have no knowledge of, including the violent thug directly below in 76 who came up to my door a few days ago, physically assaulted me by shoving me through my doorway while he was blocking my own access to my unit, and then shouted at me that everybody can see my ugly teeth, everybody can see my ugly, hairy, manly legs. Well, so if everybody can see my ugly, hairy, manly legs and my ugly teeth, then that means that he just doxed his own use or participation in the use of surveillance devices in my living space. I'm going to say this. No matter how much these low-life scumbags, and I'm referring to the sex offenders and violent thugs and career criminals that the Greenville group rents to, this has nothing to do with skin color and everything to do with behavior and criminal activities. That can be, you know, any skin color. Anybody can engage in crime, regardless of their skin color. No matter how much these low-life scumbags perv and creep all over what I do and do everything they possibly can to harass me and invade my privacy, they have no chance in hell of ever having anything to do with me. So basically what they're doing is doxing their own mental health problems to the world by engaging in nonstop stalking and harassment of someone they will never in a million years associate with. They will never hang out with me. They will never go to the networking events that I go to. They'll never spend time with me and my friends. They'll never be with me and my family on our vacations and our get-togethers. They will never in a million years interact with me at all, ever, unless they stalk, you know, unless they force a stalking situation upon me like Charles Thomas did a few weeks ago when, again, I was leaving the office, just minding my own business and picking up my packages. And he literally ran across the street towards me and then had to shove his way past me as I was trying to leave the office. He didn't have to do that, but he did. That's a behavioral problem on his part. He could have just stayed across the street minding his own business and left me alone. He can't leave me alone, as evidenced by the fact that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has brought criminal charges against him, and there was a court case where he was the perpetrator and I was the victim, verifiably. So these people are literally just trying to steal people that they will never have anything to do with. When you violate someone's privacy to the point that you put surveillance devices in their living space, and then stalk and perv and creep all over what they do in the privacy of their living space, then you are trying to steal that person. And because anything that you steal is not yours, again, they will never have anything to do with me, ever. They can perv and creep all they want, but they will never have anything to do with me. They'll never sit down across from a table and have coffee with me. I'll never be nice to them. I will never talk to them unless I'm screaming at them to get the hell away from me or I'm calling the police. They will never, ever have anything to do with me. And they're desperate to try to have something to do with me because they're mentally disturbed. Stalker trash. Stalking is a mental health issue. And creeps like the nut job named Kevin, who keeps commenting on my videos, even though I have not once ever encouraged him by replying to any of his comments. I think he's made like 30-something comments on my videos over the last few weeks. They're just doxing their own mental health issues by trying to steal someone. And when you try to steal someone, you're violating their privacy and trying to see what they do in the privacy of their living space, that they will never in a million years have anything to do with. They will never have me in any way. I will never be their friend. I will never talk to them. I will never go near them. I will never, ever interact willingly with these low-life scumbags that the Greenville group chooses to house in large numbers in this building complex. And that is sad for them because that seems to be all that they talk about. I had to lie here for 2.5 hours earlier this morning listening to these creeps screaming and shouting about white bitch this, white bitch that, she did this, she did that, white bitch this, white bitch that. And I never go anywhere near these low-life scum because they're nothing but low-life scum with no lives, right? I have much better things to do with my life, like sending emails, making phone calls, drinking my coffee, talking to my family, making plans with my friends, attending networking events, going to work, having jobs, applying for jobs, looking for new jobs, advancing my career, updating my resume, tabulating my finances, focusing on how to make more money, right? That's my life. I couldn't care less what these scumbags scream or don't scream out on the street outside of my windows like a bunch of lunatics for hours. They are letting their stupid show. They're doxing their own mental health issues and behavioral problems, and they are perving and creeping and stalking all over people they will never interact with at all, unless they stalk them and harass them, which is why they stalk and harass me. That is the only way they have anything to do with me. And they still don't, because what happens is I walk away, I call the police, and I document their harassment and their stalking. When somebody comes towards you when they walk towards you, when you're trying to get away from them or don't know they're there, like the psycho thug directly below 76 who suddenly showed up outside of the door to this unit last week when I was down the hall cleaning stuff and taking out trash and recycling and things like that. He suddenly followed me to where I was and stood in front of me and confronted me about my bad teeth and my hairy, ugly, manly legs. Now that is a mentally disturbed piece of shit that is doxing their own severe mental health issues. Stalking is a mental health issue. And when you go towards somebody who is actively trying to get away from you, then you are demonstrating your own severe mental health issues. And because I never approach any of these low-life scumbags unless they're standing in my way, unless they're planting themselves in my path, like blocking access to the door or coming at me when I'm leaving the office when they don't need to go into the office, well, then they're just doxing their own stalker problems and the fact that they're mentally disturbed, low-life scum, stalker trash. There we go. It's sad for them. And what I do, I just keep sending my emails, making my phone calls, focusing on my life, going to my professional networking events, hanging out with my nice, normal, functional, successful friends, and spending time with my family, which none of these low-life scum ever seem to be able to do. All they do is stalk and harass people they have no chance in hell of ever having anything to do with. And that's just really sad for scumbags like them.